In this video, we'll talk about how to mitigate the problem of omitted variable bias by including what we call lagged dependent variables as explanatory variables or as proxies. So in the previous video, we saw that when we don't have an observed variable that we would like to control for, we can introduce proxy variables. But there are other applications where we might not have any idea of how to obtain a proxy variable. So when we have no idea about how to make that substitution, no idea about even introducing proxy variables in our regression, we can rely on the lagged value or a previous value of a dependent variable as a proxy variable. Okay, so basically what we're saying here is that we can collect data on an outcome of the dependent variable from an earlier time period, and that can serve as a useful proxy for a variety of omitted factors or omitted variables. And this is very useful typically in policy analysis. Okay, when you're trying to make interventions or doing some sort of policy interventions and you want to understand the different relationships, you can use this type of technique. So one example is we could try to estimate what is the relationship between crime and the expenditure on law enforcement. Okay, so so if we want to do that, we might want to account for other factors such as the unemployment rate, or employment rate, and geographic, the location, or what types of industries there are, or like what type of opportunity there is to capture that. So there could be many different types of variables, but some of the variables might be hard to measure. So what we can do is, if we were measuring, let's say, crime at a point in time, and let's say this is, 2021, okay, we can introduce something, some proxy variable, which is basically the crime rate in the year 2020 or in the year 2019, because we have some reason to believe that crime has some inertia. Okay, it has some inertia, and so it can capture whatever was going on, whatever these other factors were that were affecting crime previously are going to affect crime today. So that's how you do this. Okay. And so in general terms, we can write this out as a multiple linear regression, right? But this additional proxy variable is now a lag of y, right? So if this is yt, this is yt minus k, where we're going k periods back, okay? So we're saying what is the value of y k periods ago, okay? And so this is some sort of, doing some kind of time series correction here to introduce this lag variable. So now, basically, once you introduce this variable, this lagged variable, you can interpret your beta j's, all of these betas, holding this lagged variable fixed. So in other words, if we think about this example here with crime rates, then we're basically saying that if two cities had, since we're holding crime fixed and we are trying to estimate, beta 1 or beta 2, let's say we were interested in beta 2 for a second, okay? So here we're trying to say that if you predicted beta 2 hat, we're saying that the effect that law enforcement, the expenditure on law enforcement has on crime is is ceteris paribus, right? So it's controlling for the previous crime rate, or crime rate in the previous period. So if we took two cities, let's say, or two counties that had the same crime rate in 2020, and the only thing that was allowed to vary was how much they spend on law enforcement, beta 2 hat would capture what would be the effect of increasing the expenditure on law enforcement by $1 on crime rate, right? So that's the idea here. So holding this fixed means that we are keeping this constant for all the cities, or all the counties that we're interested in. Okay, so this really does help us, because this is, again, addressing the omitted variable problem, especially when data is limited. Okay, so remember the interpretation of beta 2 hat. If two cities or more cities had the same previous crime rate and an unemployment rate and the current unemployment rate, then beta 2 is just going to be measuring the effect of $1 more spent on law enforcement. Okay, and we typically think that the more that cities with higher crime, cities that have higher crime spend more dollars on law enforcement. Okay, so anyway, you should have some intuition on what the sign of beta 2 should be, but you have to estimate that using data and make sense of it.